Fast forward, any come our channel so AGH Politics Avenue. On your podcast or training because big headlines. And na be exumo. And it be ahombraxium and a day ushiamia. Best say subscribe to the channel. It notification bell so share na afofron so answer into me NKB. I will leave you comment under the comment section or Eddie Amami. But access why any sir. Na any day ma yembo encouraging sim. Menu ka say a CHRAJ etimi Interdict a former GRA box Reverend Dr. Amin Shaddai menu ka say 9 million Ghana cedi yadi abono on procurement breaches. At this point in time abuja for transit asemu omo ebo yinchemu at this point in time do ebewro mu asye na ahwe ne yeko ene de ba chane so am say AGH Politics Avenue yenwura nsimni
15 years Kofi. It's been 15 years. Tell me what we've been doing with our revenues. And surely we missed the late President Evans at our meals. Yeah.
But after 15 years, this is what we have to show in terms of revenue, close to about $12 billion in revenue so far. But the unfortunate story behind this number is that if you look at both production as well as revenues that we are getting from our oil fields, it's continued to decline year after year. And after we peaked in 2019, we've not seen a rise in both the revenue and as well as production. So in terms of production, how have we come so far in nearly 15 years? 675 million barrels of oil have been produced, and I showed you how much we've been able to get as a country. But the question today is, what have we been able to use that over $11 billion dollars for? But in fact, if you're looking at where this money has been allocated to or where it actually goes to, in fact, usually the annual budget fund amount is very, very important. GNPC, Ghana Stabilization Fund, and the Ghana Heritage Fund, which the first tranche of the free assets money actually came from this part of oil revenue. And in fact, if you look at the current big push initiative, it will rely heavily on oil revenue. So as we talk about declining oil revenue, you should know that one thing that will be at risk could be the big push initiative because it needs money. And in fact, if you look at the annual budget fund amount, this is what we use to support our fiscal budget every year. So now that oil revenues are dropping, what is going to happen to our budgets? And in fact, if you look at how much has been allocated so far, we are looking at the cumulative distribution from the PHF, which you definitely will know that the biggest component in the last close about 15 years has gone to supporting our budgets every year. And this year we'll be talking about how the oil has actually reduced. And in terms of where the money has gone to, MFA, you look at the top 4 so far. Biggest investment has been in infrastructure, road, rail, and other infrastructure. Just about 16.2 billion has gone to Ghana City, has gone into infrastructure. And the question we are asking is, do you really see, especially railway, do you really feel the impact?
For road, yes. Rail, not sure.
Well, and education and health, I told you about the free SHS program, which was relying heavily on the Heritage Fund and also oil revenue. 6.9 billion Ghana cedis is what has been allocated so far from oil revenue. Our great, modernization has also enjoyed close to about 2 billion Ghana cedis from oil revenue, and Ghana, investment fund also about 1.2 billion Ghana cedis, and definitely the last quadrant. And in fact, the reason why this is important is that the District Assembly Common Fund depends heavily on oil revenue, and as this is going down, we ask a big question: well, is it going to affect it? And then also amortization on our loans, paying our loans is also dependent partly on oil revenues, close to about 874 million Ghana cedis spent so far. So in terms of what we've used our monies, our oil revenues for, that is what you have. In terms of the top 4, definitely road infrastructure coming first, education second.
Health, agri, modernization. Interesting. There's some quite pressure on that oil revenue. It may need some oil itself to re-engineer itself, right?
Exactly.
Well, Kofi, stay with me. This afternoon, the former Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority, Reverend Dr. Shaddai Amwa, is in deep trouble. He has been found guilty of procurement breaches and corruption-related offences that cost the state a financial loss of almost 9 million cedis by the Commission of Human Rights and Administrative Justice, CHRAJ. The Commission's report following a 2022 petition by the Pressure Group Movement for Truth and Accountability reveals that the former GRA boss supervised the award of questionable contracts to 3 companies, Rona Motors Ghana Limited, Talino Ghana Limited, and Sagel Motors and Trading Company Limited for the supply of vehicles and logistics to the authority. We've got details from that report. And of course, Kofi still with me will give me the details of this report.
Well, MFA, this case has actually traveled for more than 3 years. The petition went to CHRAJ somewhere around 16th October 2022. And according to the CHRAJ report that we are getting these details from, it got to a point where the Movement for Truth and Accountability told CHRAJ that they wanted to discontinue the case. And CHRAJ looked at the case and felt that they also had interest. They felt that they had to investigate this issue because at that point where the movement was requesting that they withdraw the case, they had already done some interviews and the investigation had been in advance. So they felt they had to go ahead. And in terms of what they found, the big headline is that the former GRA boss, Reverend Amishadai, according to the CHRAJ report, says that in terms of procurement breaches, in the procurement of, the items that you spoke about, is about, close about 9 million Ghana cedis, and the actual amount was in dollars, right? Over $800,000, which was converted to, cedis. So approximately 8.97 million, cedis in procurement breaches. And we understand that because of how serious, according to CHRAJ, these infractions are, they are going to forward this case to, the prosecution agency, so maybe the Attorney General and also Yoko, to move ahead with the findings. But we are looking at the issue, looking at how, the nature of the issue and the fact that it's corruption related. The question is, are we going to see the OSP also taking interest in this case, or is it going to just sit with the Attorney General for prosecution? But it looks like CHRAJ has taken some time, close about more than 3 years. So 3 years and about 20 or, I think about 3 months or so to actually come to this conclusion. And so the next step, according to that CHRAJ report, is prosecution. And that big headline figure is the fact that they believe that because of the procurement breaches, Reverend Amishadai Owusu has actually caused financial loss to the state to the tune of approximately about 9 million Ghana cedis.
And a quote in that report suggests that because he sits at the top of the hems of affairs, he definitely cannot be separated.
Exactly, and there was one big question of whether there was a direct personal, benefit. CHRAJ didn't really go direct on that, but just like he said, because they believe he was at the helm of affairs, he cannot take himself out of this, equation as far as this procurement breaches are actually concerned.
His roles are quite different because he's already a person of interest for the OSP, but we'll definitely be following this. Kofi, thank you so much. Now, away from that, management of the University of Ghana has bemoaned an increasing level of staff attrition rate, compounded by a slow recruitment process for timely replacement. The situation, according to management, is as a result of delay in government approval for recruitment processes. First, listen to the Vice Chairman of the Public Accounts Committee, Davis Opoku, who raised concerns over students complaining about consistent delay in the release of their semester results.
But there's been some concerns with respect to release of results and delays that come with it. And I just got a message from a student, and sometimes it becomes quite frightening when you know that results should be released on a specific day, but they are releasing delays in that. What is the university doing to address this concern and the assurances that you give to Ghanaians on this day? Thank you. In elsewhere, when they say that results will be released on the 5th of November, on the 5th of November by 2 p.m., all faculties are releasing their results online for you to go and check it out. But if it happens that we are told that results will be released on this day and there are delays, it hurts the blood pressure of students. Their BP shoots high because we've all been there.
Now, responding to the concern, Vice Chancellor of the University of Ghana, Professor Nana Abba Appiah-Amfo, says the challenge is resulting from staff attrition and delayed replacement.
Try to do our best, but we also sometimes have constraints. We have constraints with faculty and staff issues. We get our staff being separated from the universities, but we don't have the liberties to replace them. And that's one appeal that I would like to make, that even if we have to discuss additional clearance for additional staff, at least when people are separated, either through death, transfer, or retirement, we should be allowed to replace them, because that really affects us and it has the potential to affect the quality of our output. Thank you.
Now, James Aveji has been following this at the Public Accounts Committee and joins me. James, so the university also says it has referred some staff to the EOCO. Why?
Five staff, the school said they have referred to the Economic and Organized Crime Office over some unearned salaries. If you look at the Auditor General's report, which they are answering to, it says about some 8 staff have been captured in the infraction, earning some 555,000 Ghana cedis. According to the Vice Chancellor of the University, some monies have been retrieved from about 2 of the 8 staff. 6 of them, they are still chasing. 1 has been reconciled, and so they have agreed that he did not owe the 60,000 cedis that have been captured in the Auditor General's report. But for 5 of them, they are currently not in the country. They had taken steady leave with pay and have not come back to the country to serve their bond. And so they have referred those to the Economic and Organized Crime Office, who have provided some accounts to them to pay the money into. And so that's the explanation they've been giving to the committee, and the committee has given them between 3 months to 1 year to make sure that some of these monies are retrieved from such staff. MFA.
I see, James. So today, which other institutions have been appearing?
It has been largely universities as we speak. The University of Education, Winneba, is before the committee. Gone by was the UPSA, as well as the Appiah Menka University, on some infractions that has been explained, and the committee has discharged them. We're looking forward to the University of Education Winneba completing DS to know what the turn of event would be. MFA.
Thank you so much, James. Of course, you want to stay with us in our subsequent bulletins for every fallout from the Public Accounts Committee. But away from that, let's talk about another challenge that we're facing as a country. Now, the Eat Ghana Rice campaign is urging Ghanaians and corporate institutions to immediately switch to locally produced rice to avert a looming crisis in the agriculture sector. With 1.3 million metric tons of paddy rice reportedly lying unsold in warehouses nationwide, the campaign warned that failing to increase local consumption will devastate farmers and reverse grains made in domestic rice production. While acknowledging ongoing government support, the group insists that long-term solutions lie in Ghanaians choosing locally grown rice over imported brands to protect jobs, strengthen the economy, and safeguard national food security. Now, Dr. Nana Amenia Opong, Enimopong of the Eat Ghana Rice campaign joins me via Zoom for more. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. First of all, paint a picture for us, especially because we have been seeing the statements from agribusiness. What immediate consequences do you foresee if the government fails to intervene within maybe the next 3 months?
Thank you very much for having me. There is a general challenge we have because the rice that we produced last year is still there. We don't have good storage facilities, and people have started harvesting more rice now. So that's why we have this 1.3 million metric tons of paddy that is just sitting. So if we don't mop it up and we don't eat it, what it means is that we're going to harvest more rice, and then we are even going to have a more serious problems in the coming days. Yeah.
Oh, Doc, surprising, because I thought everybody in Ghana loved rice. What do you think is the challenge? Why aren't we consuming it?
You know, we don't have just Ghana rice in the system. We have imported rice as well as Ghana rice. And initially, the challenge is that most people felt that Ghana rice was not good enough. But we have worked so far with the Ghana Standards Authority and the Food and Drugs Authority. And so now the quality of the Ghana rice we have is very, very good. So first of all, the purpose of the Eat Ghana Rice campaign is to make sure that people are tasting the Ghana rice, they're able to eat Ghana rice, and they enjoy choosing Ghana rice over the imported rice.
Right. This is a matter of palate and taste, right? And so beyond the campaign, what are you asking government at least to do? You have mentioned there are a lot of imported rice in this country, which I think that's impacting the consumption of the locally produced rice. What do you think government should do?
First of all, there are issues with land development. You know, rice is not like maize or the other crops, cassava, where you can just plant directly like that on any farm or piece of land. Rice needs proper land development. So we need to look at land development issues. So look at the whole chain so that we get a consistent supply of rice, not just production. What tends to happen is that we have rice, we do a campaign, everybody should eat Ghana rice, and then we consume Ghana rice, and then we don't have enough again for the consumers. And so as a result of that, then people switch to the foreign rice. So what we're saying is that government should support right from the beginning where we are producing the rice, and especially to input supply, as well as supporting with some of the millers to be able to mobilize funds. They need funds to be able to buy the paddy from the farmers. Let me quickly add that when they were producing last year, you know, we had this dollar CD issue. So farmers bought inputs at very high cost, fertilizer, seed, and all of those things at very high cost. And at the time that they started harvesting, then the CD started stabilizing and the dollar was also going down. And so what that meant was that then it became very cheap to bring in foreign rice as compared to the Ghana rice. And so now the farmers are stuck. They produce at very high quality cost, and yet they can't sell at the same cost. So in that sense, that's where government should also intervene and make sure that buffer stock is buying at appreciable prices so that farmers don't make too much of a loss. Whilst we also go on with the campaign for people to buy Ghana rice.
Well, Doug, you know that people will be people, right? How tough do you think the government should be? If you look at the agribusiness statement again, and I like to reference that, they mentioned that the LI 2432, I think it regulates soybeans. That is quite straightforward. It at least puts a ban on the importation. Correct me if I'm wrong. Do you want the government to be very tough on the importation of rice so that we don't have a choice? Because, of course, I think if you left people, they will make choices.
Yeah. It's a gradual restriction in the importation. As you know, we don't produce as much rice as we need. So if we do 100% ban at this point, then we might run into problems. But we are looking at cutting restrictions, and we should be persistent with it. Because sometimes we say, okay, we are banning it partially, and then before we realize, we open it up again, and there's smuggling from neighboring countries and all of that. So government, we should be consistent. If we insist that this year we are bringing in 40% of imported rice, then we stay with it and we do it across the years instead of the moving up and down. Sometimes we open it up and sometimes we don't.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Opondia, for joining us on the news today. We'll carry the campaign along with you. Now, this afternoon, there is a looming public health crisis in Winneba. Residents say their taps are no longer delivering potable water, but danger. For over a year, brown, muddy liquid, almost raw river water has been flowing into homes. Many families are left with no option than to use the contaminated water for their domestic purposes. Others have turned to using seawater. The Winneba Headworks simply cannot clean what illegal mining has polluted upstream. In this edition of Dear Mahama, Stop Galamsey, Winneba residents are pleading with President John Mahama to fulfill his promise to end illegal mining.
In Winneba, water, the most basic need, has become a daily gamble. Taps run not with clean water, but with murky, brown liquid that stains clothes, and residents say now threatens their lives.
We ended our semester exams last Tuesday, and I went to church to give thanks to God for a successful end of semester, and to also seek for traveling mercies as I travel home.
Meet Amos Indam, a level 300 student of the University of Education, Winneba. Today should be a joyous day. He just finished his semester exams and went to church to give thanks to God. But his biggest worry is not his grades. It is how to stay clean in a town where water has become a hazard.
The issues of water has become a threat in the life of the people of Winneba, especially these very jurisdictions where I live. Some of us will have to resort into going to fetch water from the sea, the salt water, and of course I did.
Amos is not asking for miracles, only colorless water, the kind he once learned about in class.
But what I was taught when I was in basic school, water is colorless. But this very time, water has become something different, especially in the morning. When you go to fetch water, it will marvel you to see the color of water being yellowish, containing some particles, such that even if you wash with a cloth that is white, you end up staining it. So much afraid, so I'm not going to wash here. I'll take it home and wash. Because if I do, that will end its lifespan. So I'm not going to wash it here.
So where are you going to wash it? Where are you coming from?
I'm from water region. So when I get home, as long as I'll be here, so I'll put it when I get home anytime I wash. But before we started exams, I was admitted 3 times. And I think it's as a result of the water. Not that I drink, but when I bath, after finishing, I feel some scratches on my skin. And I want to believe it is because of the chemicals, mercury, that they actually used for the mining activities. It's what is given. And so it's having a greater impact. Not positive impact, but a negative effect on our health.
The Winneba headworks is suffocating. Silt choking its intake, raw water so polluted it cannot be properly treated. And as the system gasps, an entire community finds itself drowning in uncertainty.
That's the reality. We source our water from one of the rivers in Ghana, and I think it's one of the rivers that major galamsey activity is also operated on. And so if the water is polluted, it is obvious that the water we get here will also be polluted.
So according to the line, and when you ask, they say now because of the galamsey, the water works people used to use so many chemicals before it would be neat.
Winneba is full of Amoses.
Still on the fight against illegal mining, 5 Chinese-owned warehouses at Anyankwanta in the Ashanti region have been shut down for stocking and fabrication of some fang machines and other illegal mining equipment. The operations, spearheaded by the Environmental Protection Authority, comes after a declaration on the ban on the Shamfan machines and their fabrication. Hundreds of such equipment were found in their warehouses, which are supposed to be used for storage of spare parts. CEO of the EPA, Professor Nana Amabran Kluche, says the operations will be replicated in other regions affected by illegal mining.
This is the 7th warehouse that the Environmental Protection Authority have been to today, and what they are doing today is that they are enforcing the ban on Shamfa operations, including the importation, the sale, and also the fabric.
We and some who team cause or channel so Mamma so Jim or Hasane say Obadi and Yadumbi Edomania. You best about room na Yasum a question. Aha, a GH Politics Avenue.